All right, you want to collect art. How do you start? How do you know what's good art? Let's get one thing out of the way to begin with. If you're looking at collecting art because you think it's an investment, let me clear something up. I'm going to give you tools for analyzing and viewing and evaluating art. Easy tools. Easy tools that will help you make decisions fairly quickly. Anyway, we'll get into that. But if you're talking about money, then you're not talking about art. I'm not saying, well, if you left the house without X number of dollars, you shouldn't be shopping for art. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you're using language like investment, long term, portfolio, uh, ROI, you're not talking about art. You're talking about business. You're talking about money management. And the person you should be talking to isn't an artist, and it isn't a collector, and it isn't a gallery or dealer or anyone in the arts. The person you should be talking to is an investment broker. And then the conversation, I could say a lot, but it'd be meaningless because the conversation is going to be in that milieu. It's not going to be about art. So, did I get rid of the investment question? Because you're talking to the wrong person. If you're looking to invest in anything, including art, then we're not talking about art. You're talking about possessions, money shelters, blah, 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 blah. Enough said. So, if you do want to talk about art, it's a good question. Um, and I'll say that well, I'm 57 and I've been doing this since I was in my teens. So, in all those years, of all the gallery people I've met, of all the dealers I've met, of all the representatives I've met, of all the artists, so on and so forth, I can tell you that a very significant percentage of them, over half, don't really have any idea um, about how to evaluate, analyze, or understand art. For many of those people, and there's some very good business people that have galleries, um, art is just a product. It's another product. It may have more emotions tied to it, may have more a sympathetic conversational note that they favor. It may be a lot of it, I'm going to use the word, a lot of it is decorative. Let's face it, we're aesthetic creatures. So what many people call art is anything aesthetically pleasing. And pleasing is a very subjective thing. Well, art is subjective. So with that kind of an exposure in general culture, how the heck do you value art? So if you really want to get serious about, or more serious about collecting artists' work, let's say it that way, um, and just buying stuff because it goes with the couch isn't satisfying you, or it's making you nervous, or you're not sure about your decisions. And you might be an artist. I wouldn't blame you for being confused. I collect. um, I'm going to give you some we're already 4 minutes in, so I'm going to get to it. Art is about story. It always has been. Art's a dialogue. It's a conversation. um, Stories can be conveyed in many ways. So I'll give you some other examples, and then you'll see where the parallels are, and it'll make it a little easier to understand. A book, obviously, is a story. Even if it's a technical manual, it's a story of a sort, right? It's telling you about something. A novel has thousands of words, and it's built in a framework, chapters, sentences, paragraphs, verses, you name it. There's all kinds of easily recognizable structure to books. And a good book, or even a bad book, develops its characters and the relationships between the characters, and creates situations, puts conditions around situations and people and relationships, and hopefully develops a sort of a plot to really sink in the engagement with the reader. So that's how a book works, and that's basically how all aesthetic or artistic work functions. In a film, you have the same thing, but images transfer many, many words very quickly, all cliches included. And you have with film not only the benefit of visual reasoning quickly assimilating thoughts and situations and conditions and plot development, etc., but you have music to tap into emotional, physical sensations. So again, music is another form of art, right? Sound, oral, very keyed into who we are as human beings. Now take a ballet, a dance. You're dealing with human form, you're dealing with movement, you're dealing with interpretations of light, space, solids, and all of this. And the choreographer works with the dancer to create some kind of a cohesive storytelling. It's a little more cryptic than a film or a book, but it's there. It's essential, as a matter of fact. And just to drive the point home, there's typically music involved, or at least sounds. Um, so now with painting, now we'll talk about something I'm intimately familiar with, although I've worked in theater and I've worked around film and so forth. And I'm reading from notes, so I apologize if I'm not always looking directly at you. I'm old, memory's going, and I tend to wander, so believe me, it's good that I'm reading. Um, Painting tells a story, and again, I use the word cryptic. Painting can be cryptic because, for one thing, it's static. But the first thing you have to appreciate about a painting, or any static visual work, a sculpture, um, is that it was created during an arc of time. So what you're looking at, although at first impression it's a static boom, there it is. It's not like a photograph, and we could talk about photography. I'll do that in another video. But um, in fact, I'm at 8 minutes, so I'm going to call this part one before I dive into the specifics. And please join me for part two. See you in a few.